Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Trending Topics with BB. Yes, I am your host, Brooke Brown. If you are just tuning in, this is your first time listening to podcasts. That's what the BB stands for. I think you already figured that out. But I appreciate you tuning in, and I will keep doing this podcast as much as I am opinionated. It'll probably go on for a while. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial, at www.audibletrial.com/trendingtopicswithbb. There are over 150,000 titles for you to choose from, and this could be used for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or any other MP3 player. Well, this week I decided that the topic is hypocrisy. Now that's a loaded subject, loaded title, but I feel like I need a rant. And P.S. I've had a cocktail, so watch out. Anyway, so let's start with, let's just go. So many thoughts in my head there for that second. Okay, so I want to touch on, I get in a rant on this to friends, family, but anybody else sick of the censorship in the United States? And the reason I'm saying this is there seems to be a problem with how people take sex, but yet there's overexposure to violence. And then if you watch the news, it's all about, basically depressing violence and who's being sexually abused, and it's selective, which is why I have problems with the media, because, it's not all truth. They don't highlight what they should highlight. But a couple of weeks ago, or recently, I did a episode on my review of seeing the movie 50 Shades of Grey. Now, the reason I'm relating back to that is I kind of made a comment about how there's so much media. There was so much media built up for that movie, and since that book series, it's a worldwide popular book series. Personally, funny enough, I used my Audible trial that I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast to download the first book because I hadn't had time to read it, and audiobooks are actually easier to get through, but I digress. And the book and the movie were really similar. There was a few details, and there's a few literary problems that I couldn't get through the first time I tried to read it. And let's just be real here. The reason it's popular, my personal opinion, is because we're so jaded that people don't have good relations with whoever their partner is. I don't care, gay, straight, bi, whatever your partner is. So your sex may suck, and you're just going through the flow because that's who you are with. Second of all, people never want to talk about BDSM because, A, they don't understand it, and it's just like anything else where racism and sexism and all that comes from not understanding somebody that may be different from you. Thus, you're not open to it. But again, other countries are open to just not as much censorship, and you get desensitized to it if it's out there. For instance, Amsterdam, which has had the legal ability for pot smoking for years, actually has the lowest usage rate of any marijuana activity in the world. Why? Probably because it's always been legal. Just like, anyway. So the reason I'm bringing this subject up in terms that relates to sex and the hypocrisy is because, did you know that the U.S., despite the censorship, is actually one of the number one producers of pornography in the world? And yet, we can't talk about a book that explored sensuality and sexuality with our friends because we may be embarrassed that talking about it. And let that sink in for a moment. People will go home and use the internet and download as much pornography as they want, which, in my humble opinion, doesn't do anything. But yet, you can't read or watch an erotic movie that's really not... Well, it was rated, thus there was some censorship to it. You didn't see everything. It was not porn. Anyway, that's just one thing that's been bothering me in the hypocrisy stage. Another thing that's... Let's move on to another form of hypocrisy. I mentioned the media earlier and how I am sick of them not portraying the truth and only highlighting. So, basically, if you didn't know by now that the media plays into your psyche as to trying to show you what you think you should want to see, hear, and know, as opposed to what you what you want to. And it builds a paranoia, and thus creates the whole paranoia, and you believe what you see. Now, I will tell you a little secret as a person that has done internships in the past with the media affiliates. Their meetings about what they want to put on TV, not what necessarily they think is important for people to hear. I mean, with the change of social media nowadays, things have changed, but what I'm saying is, basically, it's hypocrisy to the point where you don't know if you're actually getting legit information. Think about that for a second. Or if it's the information that they want to cover and not information that should be covered. And probably why everybody is starting to realize that the news, watching the news on TV, and you see it too, based on just the different channels. I mean, everybody has their favorite, whether it's CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, NPR, anything you think. And I do also, if you're still with me on this rant of hypocrisy, I do want to remind you, for you, the listeners of Trending Topics with BB, this podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. And I happened to check out the list today that there's American Snipers on there, and I know the Insurgent movie, which is a follow-up to Divergent by Veronica Roth, is up there. You could get that series, so I highly recommend that if you're into the whole action sci-fi genre. Now back to, as I was saying, the hypocrisy at hand here. Let's not even talk about big issues such as sex or the media. Let's go back to a little bit personal issues about just how people are in general. And it could stem from how the society reacts to such acts from media and entertainment within the society based on the censorship. And that would be just the simple thing of not wanting to display what they're really thinking based on how other people might react. Now, I have to mention in this podcast, in the previous podcast about 50 Shades of Grey, in the movie, a huge human behavior issue stemmed from those who took the friends to see it, and then immediately everybody had an opinion about the movie, and it was necessarily negative as to, oh, I can't tell my friends I actually like the movie for entertainment. No, it was bullshit, and I'm not going to tell them. That's fucked up. Come on, the movie was better than... I mean, it was a decent movie. It was no Oscar contender, obviously. It's entertainment. It's fulfilling the imaginations of all the people that are reading the books. You're going to read the books. And you can compare and contrast all you want. But when you immediately, 5 seconds after the credits roll, and you turn to your friend and you go, oh, I'm sorry, I invited you to the movie. It was horrible. Are you doing that out of the fact that you really didn't like the movie, or are you doing that as you're afraid what your friend's going to say because you suggested on going to see something, a movie with such subject matter that may lead you to be uncomfortable because on a normal day basis we're so censored and we can't talk about sex to our friends and family because that is weird and creepy and it is not in our society. Fucking hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. And that is one thing. It's just one little aspect of hypocrisy that I don't believe. Just be fucking honest with each other. If you have friends, family, not even go back to that subject. It's just like I had an instance here where somebody that I thought I knew got involved with somebody else that you can blatantly obvious that you can tell that they put on an act every day, that they might have a fake personality, and that fake personality rubs off on that person. Now that's just hypocrisy, because what gives a person the right to take somebody else's personality based on what the reaction they think they're going to get from their partner? Think about that. I want answers to these questions. You can hit me up on all my social channels. Or, and again, find all that information on my website, brookmbrown.com. And I would like to have you sound off on that. So, let's conclude this podcast about hypocrisy. I felt I needed to get some shit off my chest. And again, you know where to find me. And take advantage of that free Audible download. I was actually quite surprised that it was that nice and soothing to listen to a book via audiobook. And you can do it on your phone or whatever device you have, and it's not the whole books on tape as of last century. That's a joke. Anyway, thank you again for tuning in to Trending Topics with BB. I don't know what the next topic will be, but I appreciate you listening here on in and out. And think about what I may have ranted a bit about today. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Trending Topics with BB. Goodbye.